Hey everybody, welcome back to the Harmony Ball podcast. This is episode 5. My guest is Sarah Clay Lindvall. She's a music educator. She lives in Georgia. She is super awesome. She is great on this episode. She talks so good about barbershop and about teaching her kids, and it's awesome. This was a great recording, and I was blessed to have her as a guest. Before we get started on this episode, we got to talk about Midwinter Convention 2022 in Pasadena, California. It's going to be awesome. Save the date, January 11th through the 16th, 2022 in Pasadena, California. There will be a youth quartet festival and the seniors quartet championships. Plus, it'll be in person, live and in person barbershop. You want to be there. January 11th through the 16th, 2022 in Pasadena, California. Hooray! New York, New York, the Bronx is up and the battery's down. Today, ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Clay Lindvall joins me in conversation on this show. And she is such a delight. She's so good at talking about barbershop, and she is so cool. Let me tell you why. We became friends when we lived in New York. She was the director of the Sirens of Gotham, the women's ensemble, the barbershop ladies ensemble in New York City. And I should say this is very important to point out, that the men's ensemble, Voices of Gotham, also rehearsed in the same building on the same night. So those afterglows were awesome, so good, they were kicking. And Sarah is so cool because after she left New York, she and her husband moved back to Georgia, and she became a teacher, but she also found time to win an Emmy. Sarah Clay Lindvall, welcome to the Harmony Ball podcast.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here.
It's a joy to have you because you are, I guess I would have to call you a barbershop brat.
I am. That used to be something that I felt silly saying, but now I wear it proudly. I'm a third generation barbershop brat.
Wow, that's so cool.
Do
you remember being like really young and going to conventions?
I do. And I remember them for reasons that had nothing to do with barbershop. Like we'd go to the Dixie District, at the time it was the Dixie District convention, and I only remember the pool because it had this amazing waterfall.
Cool.
So I loved going to barbershop events because we got to go to neat pools, I guess. I don't know. But as I got older, once I started singing, I think I was in high school, and then I fell in love with the art form itself and singing tags and the people.
So, the people are so good. It's totally all about the people, isn't it?
Yes, it's such an amazing community. And I attribute so many of the people I've met, or the reasons I've met them, to barbershop. It's so strange. Like you and I probably would have never met had it not been barbershop. And so it's been great to meet so many musicians, but not even musicians who study and perform professionally in barbershop. There's so many different types of people. So it's been
a crossroads. Would you agree that it's kind of like a nice milieu of, let's see, who do we got? We got music educators for sure.
Yep.
Lots of music educators. We've got like a cappella nerds.
Oh, yeah.
Cool people who are just like into all flavors of a cappella music and singing and performing. And then one of the things I really appreciate about barbershop is like you've got multi-generational music making going on. And I love that so much about this hobby because you get to connect with people from another time of life, but still do music with them, which is like, it's so cool. So like, I guess the other group would just be like, I don't know, I'm not trying to be rude here, but just like old people.
Yes, there is definitely a variety of age, I'd say. And I think it's so neat that you can meet people and see them year after year and connect with them and sing tags, but never know what they do in their personal life.
Oh yeah, it's like it's kind of a little bit of a magic zone where everyone's like a little bit well, it's not really vacation, but it's kind of like vacation. It's just sort of, I guess there's all sorts of different ways to get this type of human experience, but with barbershop, I guess one of its best parts is co-creating art with people around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's such a niche art form. When I mention barbershop to people, they think, what? What do you mean? What is that? Like you go and you sing at barbershops? So many
Right.
people.
It is kind of confusing, the name.
Yeah. And so it's nice. I feel like it's more well known now thanks to acapella becoming more popular and the Deke Sharons of the world and Pitch Perfect. So typically now when I mention it, they say, oh, like Pitch Perfect? Sort of. So
Typically, people reach for The Music Man, I think, and talk
yes.
about, well, there's a Broadway show called The Music Man, and we have a barbershop quartet in it, and that's what barbershop is. But that show's like pretty old. Great show. Love that show. Meredith Wilson's awesome. I
And the
absolutely love that show.
revival's going to be
And the
amazing.
revival's coming. And but there are other things about barbershop that are like maybe the people who are kind of like confused as to like what it is. Like there are some other great things about it. I always try and talk about the connection between sports and music, where it's like it's very much like you make these friends and we're all searching for this common goal. We're all reaching towards this performance at the end of the year. We're going to a festival, we're training together, and it's so much like it's like a sporting event or being on a team in that regard. Would you agree?
Absolutely. So much so that I have seen people create brackets for competitions in barbershop in the same way that they do for March Madness.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Have you ever participated in one of those?
I've never bet on a barbershop competition, but maybe I should try that sometime.
No, but I mean, you know how they do sports brackets?
Right, yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's really fun to try to guess who's going to win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
So,
it's very much
so
like
you remember all the great pools, but you also probably remember being in like the afterglows as you were growing up and like singing tags with maybe because you're like, you're part of a famous barbershop family. You're third generation, right? So like you're like in the cool rooms and you're like a kid kind of. So like do
I
you remember that?
guess. I guess it never felt like that. It sort of felt like you were visiting because since we would see a lot of the same people and I would only see them maybe a handful of times a year, it sort of felt like we were visiting family. That sounds so strange, but because
Okay.
so many of them had said, I've known you since you were born. And so when I was little, it was almost like this is just part of our family. And so it felt like we were going to competitions and things and seeing a lot of the same loving, wonderful people. So much so that I do feel like a lot of the people I've met since I was little through barbershop are like family members. The entire Fred quartet and everybody involved, that's certainly a family. And I'd say it's been really nice to grow up in it because there is such a community. And again, you might have really, really close people that are from across the world. So I think I'd say it's closer to a family reunion.
Yeah. More of a family reunion sort of a vibe. Yeah. Oh
Mhm.
God, I love seeing people that I haven't seen for an entire year and
Me
catching up
too.
with them in an easy catching up environment like a hotel lobby or just passing through the audience and seeing someone I haven't seen and giving them a hug and just chatting with them quickly before the next event or before the next quartet goes on. That's such a beautiful experience.
I think so too. And imagine the experience that we're all going to have when we get to do it again.
Oh yeah, Pasadena, baby, it's coming up. Let's talk about
I
it.
can't
You're
wait.
bringing your kids to Pasadena.
Yes, I can't believe that the worlds are going to finally collide. So I'm so excited. My students do not know what's coming. We do a tag a day in class, and they love that. They love tag singing, but they see it as sort of like a weird sight reading example or ear training example
Mhm.
because they haven't experienced the community yet. So they have a community within themselves. But when I tell them that people stand around in hotel lobbies and just say like, "Hey, are you a baritone? Great. Do you know Heart of My Heart? Whatever." Um, they just can't fathom what that's going to be like. So I cannot wait for them to experience it firsthand.
Minds will be blown. Young
I hope so. I have a handful of students that have really, I guess, become sort of obsessed with barbershop. And the first quartet that they always find on YouTube is Newfangled Four. And so they're obsessed with Newfangled Four. But then they go down the rabbit hole and discover Ringmasters and Vocal Spectrum and GQ and all of these great groups. And so I find them coming to me saying, have you seen this song? Do you know this tag? It's so fun.
Oh, that's so good. Yes, I have heard a few anecdotes like this from music educators where it's like, you kind of have to bite your tongue. It's almost kind of fun to be like, oh, yeah. But what's your approach to that when your students come to you and they're so excited about something you have seen?
Usually I say, I know, I love this too. And wait till have you heard this one yet? And usually we go down a rabbit hole together. But they're so funny because there are times where I'll say, oh, yeah, oh my gosh, I know so-and-so really well. And they're like, what? You're famous? And I'm like, no, not even close. I've just known this person since I was 13 because I see them at convention every year. And they're like, but they're famous on YouTube. And I'm like, I guess I just don't think of barbershop like that. But they're really sweet. So I can't wait for them to get to meet all of their heroes in barbershop in person.
So young people have this whole nother perception through the internet of barbershop, and Newfangled Four is the gateway drug.
Apparently, because when I came into this school that I'm teaching at now, there were classmates or students that were in there that knew all about Newfangled Four and had watched all their videos. And so when I came in and taught them a tag for the first time, they're like, oh my gosh, this is like Newfangled Four. And I was like, how do you know Newfangled Four? And so that was the moment where, again, the worlds collided. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so fun. We're doing a tag a day.
I hope that quartet is ready to really knock it out of the park in Pasadena next year, because they're going to have like a Beatles at the stadium audience.
I mean, you have no idea. These students are going to lose their minds. It's nuts. They love Westminster too. They love the Seize the Day performance, and they put it on all the time. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So
it sounds like you've got
they watch all sorts of things. I have some really sweet students. And it makes my heart so happy that they love not only barbershop, but a cappella as much as I do.
Oh, I didn't know you had a love for larger than barbershop a cappella music. Oh, tell me some of the times in your tell me about your love for a cappella.
Sure. I think that I found my love for a cappella through barbershop because, again, that's sort of all I knew growing up. And so when I got into college and learned that there was an entire world of a cappella singing and competitions and all of that, it didn't exist at the college that I went to for undergrad, but it was something that I really loved following. I loved watching the ICAs, and when I moved to New York, it was so awesome to go and watch the finals at Town Hall. And I really had a blast getting to go and see that every year. It was so great. You're seeing the best of the best. And I also am obsessed with the Voices of Liberty or Voctive. They're so great. And so I think a lot of my favorite music pieces or pieces that I like to choose for students come from some of my favorite a cappella groups. It's really fun.
How does that work, choosing music for your students? Because I guess, do you have to find, how do you say this, annotated or like abridged, that's the word I'm looking for. Do you have to find abridged versions for a group with less experience? Like if you wanted to sing a Voctive chart, or do you just sing the Voctive chart?
That's a great question. Usually I get my heart set on wanting to do a piece from one of those groups and then reminding myself this is actually where our students are. Now, I always want them reaching. I never want to only give them repertoire that is at the level that they're at. But we've gotten to a place in the past 2 years where now my advanced group, I actually will have an advanced a cappella class next year. And those students will be able to do some, I'd say, Voices of Liberty or octave charts, probably just the 8-part ones, maybe not the beyond 8-part stuff, but they'll be 2 on a part. And they've really grown in the past 2 years. So pieces that I've wanted to do for years, I'll finally get to try. And typically I'll give them one really difficult piece that is above their level for one concert that's sort of pushing them toward it. Meanwhile, also giving them pieces that allow them to be very successful, because I never want them to feel like they're unable to achieve what I'm giving them. So I'd say there are a lot of great arrangements that are just 3 and 4 part that you can find on JW Pepper. And so I've been able to cultivate their skills through pieces that are easier but similar in style. And I'd say also cultivate their taste for it, because I think a lot of students coming into the classroom they're only listening to maybe pop or hip hop or whatever it is. So to introduce them to other styles of music and to allow them to feel like they can take ownership of it and feel creative in the process, I think allows them to really not only excel at the music, but like it and enjoy it and learn about it. So that's a long-winded answer.
Oh, that's wonderful. We're all about long-winded answers here on a long-form podcast. This is what it's all about. So in addition to selecting your repertoire in a strategic way in which the advanced students get an opportunity to reach, but they're also set up for success, I would be so curious to know how you encourage your students in other ways. This is not a very black and white question, but I am sort of just trying to get at like your pedagogical methods and how you find what you found to be successful in your, because I think you've been teaching for, I think I have my notes, 5 years at this school that you're teaching at?
Actually, 5 years in the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 5 years in the classroom total, but I've been at 3 different schools just because we've moved between those schools, unfortunately. So this is my 2nd year at this particular school. And I'd say, to answer your question, I think it all starts with developing a safe space and a community.
Safe space and community.
Absolutely. I think you have to build an environment that allows students to be seen and heard and valued in order to be creative. And so I guess my teaching philosophy probably comes down to that the community is key, and that you've got to be able to be vulnerable yourself as a leader so that your students can also feel free to be vulnerable. Not in an unprofessional way, but just be an authentic person. So I work to create opportunities for them to be authentic and vulnerable so that when we pour ourselves into a piece of music, they're able to do that authentically and, again, feel like their voice is heard in the creative process. So I'd say it all starts with community.
Wow, that's so I love talking about this subject because as a performer on cruise ships, I often struggle with vulnerability.
I bet.
I'm in a lounge environment. It's very much it is about community, certainly, but it's very not well, how do I say this in an optimistic way? There are less opportunities for growth of the community beyond just having a good time, which
Right.
is important. Certainly, we should enjoy music for the magic that it creates in an atmosphere of decadence and debauchery. But there's much deeper purposes. And when I get the chance to speak and pick the brain of music educators such as yourself, I'm so interested to know the particularities. And sometimes it's hard off the cuff to sort of get those, but it sounds like, if I'm understanding you correctly, that you find ways to offer opportunities for vulnerability, but mostly you see it as a philosophical journey of yourself to find ways to model as a leader your vulnerability, and so that they feel like they're in a comfortable safe space for that to happen. Did I understand that right?
Yes, and I'd say it's always a process. It'll never be perfect. And as a recovering perfectionist, it's sometimes difficult to remind myself of that. But I feel like if I can try to give myself grace in the moment and be, again, authentic with my students, they are willing to go on that journey together. So it's not where I'm just leading them or pulling them. We all are on the creative journey together. So it's been a process. And I hope that I'll continue to grow and evolve. I think to be an educator, you have to be willing to constantly grow and evolve. And if not, I think you run out of things to teach. And at some point, I think too, that I hope the students will grow enough to where I no longer have anything to teach them because they've learned so much and have kind of outgrown our program, so that they can go on and continue to learn and grow and do amazing things beyond our program.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I always think about, just to share a little personal history. When I was in high school choral music, I remember our teacher saying that she was having a conference with a parent, with the students' parents, and the students' parents were very angry because she had inspired their daughter to become a musician.
Oh,
And I thought that this is my high school choir teacher, Gail Bowers. What Gail said was so interesting. I still remember to this day. It was like what she told the parents, and what she told us that she told the parents, was that she believed that her student was going to be successful in whatever she chose to do, and music was just what she chose to do, and that the atmosphere of creating art and creating music was going to fuel her ability to be successful in any avenue that she chose. I just loved that answer because it just felt so empowering.
absolutely. And it's something that I think is forgotten. I think that there are so many parents who are, I'd say, concerned because of course, they want their child to thrive. But I think it's worth reminding them that no matter where they go, like you said, and like your chorus teacher said, that
Shout out to Gail.
oh, yes, woohoo, being a part of an artistic community gives you so many life skills to be able to interact and have a thriving relationship with others. And so I think that, just like Gail said, that's the key, right? Isn't that what we're here to do?
Yes, a thriving relationship with others. Yeah, making art together and going and seeing your extended family at convention. So fulfilling.
Gosh, I can't wait to see them again. It feels like it's been forever.
And you know what was so fulfilling, Sarah, was going to Sirens rehearsal and seeing that happen, and then go up to Voices rehearsal and seeing that happen, and being part of that, and then going to the ultimate afterglow in Midtown.
I still can't believe that was real. That feels like,
let's reminisce.
oh my gosh, I miss them so much, and I am who I am today because of those groups and being a part of those communities. But I'm so grateful that you had the opportunity to experience it, because it's
I
hard.
was very lucky. For our listeners, we've got to clue them in on what we're talking about.
Sure.
Go ahead, please.
So Sirens of Gotham and Voices of Gotham are two separate choruses that are in New York City, and they rehearse in the same location, typically on separate floors, and occasionally do joint rehearsals there as well. And then every Thursday night after rehearsal, everyone goes to an Irish pub where the entire top floor of that pub has been essentially reserved for the choruses. And has an afterglow and parties until about 2 a.m. every Thursday night. So it really is a magical community where you're going to get to see your friends and sing tags until 2 a.m. every Thursday and don't have to worry about a thing because you can just get in a cab and head back to your
Oh,
place.
yes.
And it was the synergy between the groups was something magical. I think I've been so pleased to see it being recreated in Parkside Harmony and Fog City Voices and their sibling groups. And I hope to see it continue. I know that it's for some individuals who haven't experienced it, they sort of think, oh, that seems really strange. And I don't know, I really like my one group. But there are so many opportunities to collaborate. And you don't always have to collaborate, but the collaboration really helped us move forward as arts organizations because we learned so much from each other and we were able to create so many opportunities together.
Yeah, and just such a great, healthy hang afterwards.
It was
I
always
often think
needed.
about Yeah, it was often needed. I often think about this Tom Hanks quote, everybody's favorite American actor, Tom Hanks. I often think about this Tom Hanks quote where he's like talking. I think he was on the Mark Maron podcast, this famous podcast from a decade ago, and he was talking about what he really gets out of making movies and like being an actor. And he was clear about it. He was like, I do this for the hang. I just love hanging with people that are making movies and making art, and that's what I love. And I that afterglow, the Gotham afterglow was just so good. So consistently fun.
I'm so curious to know
And
what did you love most about it?
oh well, first of all, there's the walking there from rehearsal, which also that's a
With
very specific
everyone.
thing. But it's nice to have it's nice to have. Well, it's hard to separate what I liked about it from what happens at every afterglow, which is that you get to blow off steam and your voice is in gear, like you're warmed
Yes.
up and you're ready to hang, and you don't have to. You can kind of turn off any remaining perfectionistisms or like
Mhm.
make the work stuff, and it's just the hang. But it's also a great time to just connect with the other people because you don't when you're I don't know about yourself, but I think probably when we're working on the craft, we're focused on the craft, we're making the
Correct.
work. But when
Yeah.
we're socializing, we get to shift into another gear, and this could be bigger than just two choruses. I feel like if it was like even 10 choruses, it'd be incredible if that could somehow happen, where it's a crossroads of people that have similar goals, but it's not the same goal.
Hmm.
And that is just such a magical experience. That's the magic of festivals because everyone gets to like it's really very difficult to describe. It's more of a vibe thing.
That it is. I
It's a
agree. And
vibe.
I think that's what set up the safe community for those organizations was the ability to go and really get to know your fellow singer. I think that
Yeah.
was necessary so that you really did know who the people were that you were singing on the risers with and interact with them in a way that was just, like you said, just a hang.
Yeah, and if the pandemic has taught me anything, I need people so much.
Yes,
I need to socialize so much.
I'm 100% there with you. Yes, it's funny because I have over time I've always thought that I was an extrovert and found out that I'm an extrovert when I need to be, but I'm a pretty serious introvert who needs quiet time to recharge. But after the pandemic, I found I'm now being recharged again by interactions with people in person. So it's been nice to remember how important that is and how lovely it is to be able to dive into a deep conversation with somebody, maybe that because you have been singing with them or participating in something artistic in some way, but really being able to take away the small talk layer and dive into authentic conversation. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess maybe one of our challenges as barbershoppers is to try and drive more authentic conversation. I don't
Hmm.
know if you'd agree with this, but sometimes I'll be watching a competition. I'm like trying to think back to like 2005 or something, like kind of a different
Was
era
that
of
was that the OC
barbershop.
Times era?
Maybe it's the OC Times era, or even just watching videos on YouTube of other times of barbershop and kind of just thinking like, wow, this is just a totally different style of competition. Like it
Yes.
seems so like, for lack of a better word, executed. Like
Or
everything is
contrived?
just, it's being executed. Like people
Yes.
are, and I'm not in the judging school, and I know they've made great strides towards being more authentic and vulnerable and interesting,
I
and
agree.
all the wonderful things that can happen on stage. We are doing our best as a society to pull those methodologies and ways of communicating to an audience, and it's happening. This is happening, but the quest is still on for authenticity. And I
Yes.
wonder, from your perspective, being an educator, being around young people who are often very good at being authentic, and you brought
Yes.
this open
Yes.
up, how do people learn how to do this if they've spent so much of their time maybe going after a score or
Hmm.
trying to execute the correct quote unquote thing on stage, like being in their head? How do people, what's your personal take on authenticity and how to inspire it in an ensemble?
This is going to sound like such a boring answer because I use this kind of as an answer before, but I do think it comes back to community and common values. So I think if you are a part of an ensemble where the value is to win or get a certain score, then that's likely going to be your value there too. And so you're probably going to, again, execute the things and learn the perfect technique, whatever you need to do in order to achieve that goal. But I think in order for our art form to become more authentic, I think we need to create communities where individuals can feel safe enough to be authentic. And I think it, in addition to that, on a separate note, I think it also comes down to understanding what is the message that you are conveying, what is the purpose for singing this piece, and are you connecting to it on a personal level? If so, how are you doing that? Do you have a method? Are you using a specific technique to be able to connect to? I'm going into like Meisner Stanislavski acting technique kind of thing at this point, but are you singing something that also reflects your values in some way so you can truly connect to it authentically? Or are you performing something that allows you to tie to a character authentically because either you've experienced something similar to that character or you can really put yourself in an imaginary circumstance to allow yourself to present that character authentically? I think a lot of it comes down to the community, and then a lot of it also comes down to potentially the song choice and the method with which you prepare that piece or yourself to perform that piece. I think a lot of barbershop groups focus their time and efforts on we're doing this move here on choreography or choralography or we need to execute the sound this way, and that's all great. We all need that technique, but I think when it comes to the performance, we have to move beyond the technique and move into connecting authentically to the message you're conveying and allowing yourself to be vulnerable on the stage as you're performing so that your audience can feel safe enough to feel vulnerable too. And that's when I think then the result of that hopefully is you've made connections, real, raw, true connections with people in that audience. And I think that's the win. I don't think it's about scores. I think, yay, that's fun. It's good to have a result of having a score, but I think the win is truthful connection.
Right
And
on. Love it. As you were as you were saying that, I was thinking about, because the theme of this first season of the podcast is how to sort of like stoke the fire on the a cappella festivals and on barbershop festivals when we do get to gather back in person.
Hmm.
I guess one thing I was thinking about while you were saying that was like, what would be the cross-disciplinary events or educational opportunities, shall we say, to include like method acting or dancing or other performative arts? If you could choose one, or if you could just grab for one right now, what would you be most interested in? What do you think would benefit our choruses that maybe isn't included? And like, what opportunities do you see being a lifelong barbershopper that could make this experience even more cool, in addition to super rad water slides?
Yeah, I do love the pools. I think two things I'd say. I think the first would be teaching ensembles or even quartets, smaller groups, the or giving them the tools to be able to determine what they value in this art form and what their true values are, what their common goals are. I think having some form of education to help create not only an outline of your values, but also potentially a strategic plan so that everybody has a common goal to work toward and feels really bought into that common goal. But then in addition, for when it comes to the art form side, I'd say probably acting, probably. And it's so funny when you take acting classes, so much of what they do, if you were a performer before, so much what they do is have you do less. And that's not because, I mean, part of that is because some of it's contrived and it's not authentic, but a lot of it is because the person isn't present in the performance and isn't present in the room and isn't present with themselves. And so I think, I guess I'll say three things. Yes, I think potentially bringing in someone to help coach acting and help people to feel like they can connect to their circumstance. That'd be one. Two would be somebody to help you determine the values, the shared values of your culture. So I guess overall for that one would be helping to define what the culture is for the group or the ensemble. And then third would be, oh goodness, and now I just forgot acting, culture, and then, oh
Water
no.
slides. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now what was, oh no. Oh, well, mindset.
It's all right.
That was the third one.
Okay.
Sorry. But learning how to have be present and to be mindful about your intentions in a piece and being able to be fully present in the performance. So three.
That is such a cool answer. And sometimes when I think about these podcast questions that I just pull out of my butt, I I'm like I'm kind
You're
of
very
like,
good at
oh,
it.
thanks. I what I've realized is that, and this is kind of a really, I'm going to keep going broad, broad, broad. So much of our life is dominated by the internet, and I get so much out of having a phone call, but nobody really phone calls that much anymore. So like
Yeah.
podcasting for me is like this really cool opportunity to ask these weird questions and just have have license to ask them. So thank you for your answer. I really enjoy this, talking with people that have been in barbershop for with so much experience, and it's so joyful to hear these answers, and maybe they don't like. I don't think I understood exactly, but having a mindset, let's just go into that one for a second. So like when I'm a performer, like I also think that, how do I say this? I'm gonna back up. What you touched on as a recovering perfectionist, I feel like that in a chapter, in a synopsis of this podcast would marry very well with some other points that have come from other barbershoppers where I feel like we've really we're working as a society of music makers to sort of transcend the perfectionist mindset,
Yes.
and that when we achieve that, we're going to make such more brilliant touching real raw art. And
Mhm.
I try to figure out how to ask these questions to everyone, because what is real and what their values are is different for everyone. But like
Yeah.
uncovering it can be similar. Like the
Yep.
method by which we like dredge it up from our layers of the clothing and the masks that we wear to exist in society is kind of there's all sorts of ways of doing that, and that must be kind of a sticky wicket when you're teaching young people, because they well there's I'm trying to remember what it's like to be a teenager. Just like some teachers you don't exactly quite trust. You're not kind of
Mhm.
ready to like take off the mask with them. But some teachers you totally do. Like some of my high school teachers were like so well loved, like just everyone loved them, and then others not so much. And it's like I'm thinking about this, like what's the trick there? How do you you're an experienced choral director. How do you get an
Sure.
ensemble to like being vulnerable? I mean, we're just keep wrapping around this. How do you give them that mindset, or present an opportunity to use that mindset?
Oh, that's such a tricky question.
Tough one, right?
It
Tough one.
is, it is. And I think I would need to spend a lot of time to really think about how I think it all goes back to building that culture first and foremost. But I also think it comes from the director or whoever is the leader in the moment, whoever is leading. Because I think that you want to have multiple leaders and everybody should be a leader, in whatever ensemble. But I think having those leaders reflect that vulnerability themselves and creating a space of trust is what allows that. It's funny because students, as insecure as they can be, they're also so much they trust easier, or they're more willing to be open and vulnerable quicker than, say, somebody who has been through a lot in life and has many built up layers. So I sometimes feel like it's easier to achieve that community with students than it is with some adults, just because if you imagine, if somebody who has been through some hurt or trauma, then they're likely going to have some armor up, and it would be, even in the safest environment, it might be difficult for them to be vulnerable. But I think showing them consistency and showing them that you are a human and you make mistakes, and like, let's celebrate mistakes, because holy cow, look how much we can learn. I think that's the biggest part. So I learned something awesome from one of my very best friends and mentors, who is also in Sirens and is now one of their artistic directors. Her name is Sam Bunting. And she used to say, like, yay, you made a mistake. Let's celebrate it. And I have
Oh,
loved that so much, because even though I haven't necessarily been able to fully embody that myself, because I still have a lot of perfectionist tendencies, I think if I'm able to help my students do it, it makes it a little bit easier. So, and I also, when I make a mistake, I'm like, oh man, you guys, did you see this big mistake? Awesome. Let's learn from it, whatever it is, instead
oh,
of
rad.
pretending like, I think 10 years ago, I would have been like, what? Everything's fine. What are you talking about? I didn't make a mistake. And now I'm like, look at this mistake I made. Woo.
Oh,
And that has helped a lot. So I don't know. I think
ooh, I like that.
being a
That's
leader
great.
who is able to admit when you're wrong and admit when you don't know, instead of pulling it out of your bottom, you know?
Yeah, you know what I love about gardening is that often it gives you that opportunity to make mistakes, and the plants show you your mistakes, but you're not
Yep.
like ruining somebody's kid.
I
Plants.
know, but you don't want to hurt the little plant souls.
Of course not. No, 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 of course not. But plants,
Oh.
oh, but they're so wonderful. How are your peonies? Are they in full bloom, or have they gone
They
past full bloom, or how are
were,
they?
well, actually, they're kind of babies. They're like 3-year-old peonies. And so this is the first year that we've gotten a bloom, and only one bloom, but it was glorious and it was massive and it was the most vibrant shade of fuchsia that I have ever seen in a peony. And so I was very happy about it for a good 5 days.
Cool. And also, how is your audition book shaping up? Because I know you are planning on doing some summer auditioning or something like that. I have that
Yes.
scrawled in a note.
No worries. Yes, you're right. Um, I've just started working on it, and I've been a little timid because it does feel very daunting to try to get back into that mindset. But I want to be able to do it not only to, I guess, prove to myself that I can still go and create art, but also so that I can show my students, like, here's the all the wonderful raw real parts of going and creating art in this way. And I feel like I can't teach them truthfully or honestly if I don't try to experience it myself as well. So, but I also feel like I need to keep up with the current trends of the business so that I can give my students great advice. And I don't feel like you can fully understand the business as it currently is unless you involve yourself in it. So I guess I'm really going so that I don't feel like a fraud when I'm teaching.
You've clued into how children, or not children, young people detect authenticity. I agree 100%. They
Yeah,
somehow know just magically whether
they
or not you're
know. Yeah,
talking about doing the actual work or if you're teaching it from some book. That's yeah, they know.
absolutely.
They have a BS detector par excellence.
They-
Yeah.
They're the best mirrors there are to show you where you can improve. They're great.
I miss audiences. I miss people telling me where I can improve. My plants have me. They tell me where I can improve. They're like, no, soil was wrong. Nope, not enough water. Nope.
But isn't that
You planted me at the wrong time of the year. Nope, you didn't put. There's so many nopes from the plants. But the ones that are happy, I'm like, oh, I'm doing it right. I'm doing it right. Oh, yeah. They just tell me. Oh, and also, I've been experiencing this in the trout stream too recently, where I have a
what?
fishing guru. Yeah,
Oh, are you a
I'm
fishing
learning how.
guru?
I'm learning how. Well, no. I'm learning how. I'm learning from someone who's like really into trout fishing. Like, and
Wow.
he's a lifelong friend, and we went to school together, and when we were kids, and like we've reconnected over the years, and he's super into it. He's like so into it. The point I'm trying to make is that the fish, like the plants, will talk to you. Like
Yeah,
not in English, but like they'll they'll let you know.
they give you
They will
signs.
tell you. And perhaps, like your students, they will tell you in subtle ways whether or not your authenticity is shining through. And that's
Yes,
such a
or
cool
whether they feel
experience.
comfortable. Yeah, or
Hmm.
whether they appreciate the art that they're working on, or yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think it's the same with audiences.
Oh, I miss them so much, Sarah. I want to be in
I
front of
know.
them. I like
When
them. They
do you
like
think
me.
that you'll have that art? Come to Georgia. Everything's basically open because people be crazy. But we can give you an audience here.
We'll have to take that one off online because I am planning on a trip to Savannah, Georgia in the end of the summer. Yeah.
What? You're gonna love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I know. I have been told many times. I was actually planning on being there last year. We'll take this offline. Let's talk about barbershop for a minute.
Okay.
Oh my God, I cannot wait for Pasadena. Bing, bing, bing. Pasadena, your
Yay!
kids are going to be there. Side's kids are going to be there. A
I
lot of other
know.
awesome kids are going to be there. A lot of educators are going to be there. It's going to be, what'd you say? Mind blow? No,
It's a
world colliding.
yes, it
Yes.
really is. I'm so excited to meet size students, and I know Debbie Cleveland brings her students most of the time, I think,
Okay.
and they do
Debbie's
really
kids are
well.
coming.
And so I'm just, oh man, I can't wait. I don't even know what to expect. I've been to Midwinter before, but just as a spectator. So I'm looking forward to seeing what it's going to be like. I just want to make sure my kids can hang out in the lobby and sing tags. Like I know I'm supposed to be the adult and the chaperone and the whatever. But I'm gonna have to like build it into the schedule so I can say, okay, no, they're not having to go to bed until I don't know, midnight so they can stay up and sing tags in the lobby.
Yeah, that's the best. Oh, it's
That's
so
like the
good.
whole that is what I that's why we do this, right? Like yay,
Mhm.
performance, but like you said, it's the hang.
Hang, like
Yeah.
Tom Hanks says. Yeah. He's so right. It's so about the people. It's just about some awesome people making art and hanging out in the halls. Ah, so good.
So
Miss
fun.
it so much.
Me too. The real connection
The
of
real
people.
connections. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
I
why we
think
make
that,
art
you know what? I think, Derek, I think that's where the real connections happen.
in the hallway.
Yeah. I think
Totally.
that might be a portal to
Okay, so
more,
what you're saying is less structured time,
potentially.
less perfection, more
Yes.
free time.
Yep. How
Yeah, I
awesome would it
agree.
be to be able to go on stage? Like, yes, you planned your set and this and that, but how awesome would it be to feel like you and the audience are just having a hang?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is kind of the magic of getting together en masse as a big hotel takeover is we just get the serendipitous run into each other thing that well, I don't want to hammer this point because I've been hammering it too often with some of my constituents lately, but it's just I miss walkability so much. When I lived in Brooklyn, I would run into Giovanni on the street just like randomly,
Did you
for
really?
no good reason. Yeah, and it would be so great.
Yep.
And I just don't get enough of that anymore in my suburban development. There's
Having to
not
get in the
enough.
car and
Yeah, and it's just not cozy. I could whine about this for years. I'm gonna have to record with Matt Swan because he can really whine about this. But
oh,
I
I love
want to.
Matt.
Yeah, he's pretty good about stuff. I like the serendipity of meeting people so much,
Yes,
and like people we just it's America is too isolating. We need more walkable downtown cores
I
where
agree.
people live and work.
It is. I wish that we could move back at some point just because I took for granted how, even just walking around, how fit you are.
Yes.
So
You get the
now,
endorphins just programmed into the schedule.
absolutely. And you have the time outside, even though it's a city, you're still seeing trees and the beautiful sunlight. And yep, I miss that too.
Yeah. Well, we will have that in Pasadena when we're taking over a hotel and all the kids are going to have the mind-blowing world collidingness and I'll be there and I'll be seeing your kids perform. It'll be so cool and then we'll watch Sai's kids perform. And is Brian coming?
Yes.
Yeah, Brian will be there, and Brian and I can talk about Radiohead, and it'll be great.
Yes.
We're gonna
Look
have a
at
great
you.
time.
You have the best memory.
Well, I just love people. That's
That's
all.
so cool. So in Westminster's performing, right?
We
Did I
better
see
be.
that?
We have to. I'm not gonna announce anything right now because we're still trying to finish the summer show, but
Of course. I
yeah,
mean,
but
it
we
would
will
be
be there.
ridiculous
Yeah.
if we came, yeah, if we came all the way to California and didn't see y'all perform.
Yeah, we're gonna be representing. We will be there, even though it's oh my gosh, time is flying by. Only 6 months, 7 months away.
Really? Oh my gosh. You're
I
gonna have the
know.
biggest fan club ever. My
Oh
students are gonna lose
yes.
their minds.
Music, 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 acapella music. I can't wait.
It's
Well,
gonna be so fun.
should we wrap it up? We're at about an hour now.
Sure.
Keep it short and sweet.
Yes.
You have any other pearls of wisdom that I didn't find a way to incite in our conversation?
Pearls of wisdom.
Yes, pearls of wisdom, because
Sure. Never
you're a
take
gifted
anything.
educator. Go ahead.
I guess never take anything at face value. Everybody is,
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
yeah, everybody is going through stuff, and typically, if never take things personally. And again, as somebody, I'm also a recovering people pleaser, so but I'd say don't take things at face value. You never know what's going on underneath. And when you're working with people who are singing, you never know when whatever is underneath might be uncovered. And if it's from hurt, then it is likely to feel harmful. But just extend love and safety and support around them so that they can feel like they can be themselves, be uniquely themselves, and be loved and appreciated and valued for who they are, and not feeling like they have to hide. So
Oh,
don't ever
that's so
take anything at
caring.
face value. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Ooh, and one more question. This is how we wrap up all the podcasts.
Is it? Okay.
We decide which tag we're going to sing in person when we hang out.
Oh my gosh.
Your call. Your pick.
Okay. Ooh. Do you know the In Paradise the Sun Will Rise and I Will Wait to Face the Skies? Ever
don't.
roam in your eyes? I don't know what the tag is called, but that one.
Okay. Paradise Rise Eyes.
In paradise the sun will rise. Yeah.
Okay, it's on.
That one is going to be awesome.
Right.
Epic. That's what it's going to be.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to it. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Derek. This was so fun and needed. It's nice to have this connection across the nation.
Oh yeah, epic connections across the nation, friends around the world who love to sing. That's what Barbershop's all about. I'd like to thank my guest, Sarah Clay Lindvall. And thank you for listening. This is Derek Wayne saying, keep the dream alive.